When looking at peer feedback as formative assessment, we need to start with the foundation of a carefully cultivated environment, meaningful feedback, and teaching students to give, receive, and apply feedback. From there, we can move to structures and tools of peer feedback. An important part of the teaching learning cycle is feedback. Star Sackstein points out in her book, Peer Feedback in the Classroom, Empowering Students to be the Experts, that feedback isn't separate from teaching. The teaching is in the feedback. Feedback is a valuable formative assessment tool. While the teacher is an expert on their content and content-related skills, they aren't the only expert in the room. There's a saying, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. When students know how to give and receive feedback, they no longer need to wait passively for their turn with the teacher. They can take responsibility for and move forward in their own learning process. Peer feedback engages students in the highest level of teaching. Paul Black and Dylan William, in their research publication Inside the Black Box, Raising Standards Through Classroom Assessment, declare that the ultimate user of assessment information, which is elicited in order to improve learning, is the pupil. With this in mind, it seems natural that students engage in peer feedback. In order for peer feedback to be effective, the teacher needs to carefully cultivate a supportive classroom environment and equip students to give, receive, and apply feedback. The culture of the classroom needs to provide a welcoming, respective learning environment that supports risk-taking and honest sharing. Black and William point out that when the classroom culture focuses on rewards such as gold stars or grades, students look for ways to obtain the best marks rather than at the needs of their learning. Sackstein compares the classroom to a playground for learning and emphasizes that if we want kids to play nicely, we have to develop the culture and provide the example. One way to develop a supportive classroom culture is to build rapport and respect. This means that we are respectful when speaking to students, handling conflicts, and addressing multiple perspectives. Students will follow our lead. Another step in developing the culture is establishing rituals and routines. These build trust. Students need to understand how and why things are happening, and they need to be invested in the systems in place. If students are accustomed to practices such as the use of discussion protocols and reflection, they will be able to move to more easily step into peer feedback. Third, success and failure should be celebrated. Reframing failure as opportunity fosters an environment that supports risk-taking. The final step in creating a supportive classroom culture is letting students take the lead. This means shifting from a teacher-centered classroom to a student-centered one. In order to teach students to give effective feedback, we need to be giving effective feedback. Effective feedback is meaningful feedback. Meaningful feedback is tied to clear learning goals and criteria for success. When giving feedback, focus on 1 or 2 points at a time rather than trying to address everything at once. Be specific, even when feedback is positive. Use the language of whatever success criteria you're working with so connections can be made clear. Students also need to be taught to receive and apply feedback. This involves developing listening skills. Sackstein says much of our ability to receive feedback is tied to our ability to listen well and truly hear what is being said. The teaching and practicing of listening skills can easily be incorporated into content lessons through use of podcasts and videos. According to Sackstein, success shouldn't be an amorphous idea, clear only to the teacher. In order to give and use feedback, students need to know how to review the work and what to measure it against. Students can and should be involved in developing success criteria based on the learning objective. This includes developing rubrics to measure the work. One simple yet effective rubric is the YES rubric. This uses the categories of yes and, yes, yes but, and no. Students of any age can easily understand and use this language to evaluate their own work and the work of their peers. Students need to learn to articulate what they need. When they understand the success criteria and learning objectives, they should move from asking, "Is this okay?" to being able to identify specific questions or needs they have about how their work meets the criteria. It is then the responsibility of the reviewer to listen diligently, ask clarifying questions, and offer just the right feedback. Feedback is meaningless unless we teach kids to be specific. Once this foundation is laid, you can facilitate various scenarios of using peer feedback in the classroom. One such scenario is expert groups. In expert groups, students are grouped into teams that are tasked with becoming experts on a specific skill criteria and providing feedback in that area. Another way is with reviewing content and practicing skills prior to a test. This can be done in a small group or clinic type setup where students who have a particularly strong grasp of certain skills or content could lead and circulate around the room, helping the teacher provide feedback and answer questions. It could also be used for reflection and feedback after a test. Students could work in pairs to review an exam and figure out where problems arose. Pairing students according to strength and need would allow for more specific feedback. In the science classroom, students can give feedbacks on results of experiments or review lab reports. And in the language learning classroom, it would be a great opportunity for English language learners to help native English speakers with skills such as fluency, accent, and written expression. There are a number of tech tools that support peer feedback. Among them are Voxer, Google Docs comment and suggesting features, screencasting, logging, Skype, Periscope, and Twitter. These tools provide a record of the feedback that can be revisited by the person receiving the feedback. They also provide a level of accountability to the teacher and informative data for the teacher. Peer feedback is a valuable tool for formative assessment. In order for it to reach its full potential, the teacher must lay the groundwork of developing a supportive environment, modeling effective feedback, and teaching and supporting the skills of listening and clear communication. Peer feedback done well can add a rich, engaging layer to the student-centered classroom.